Welcome. Today's lesson is on romaine lettuce. It has a nickname called crunchy water, primarily because a lot of folks don't think it tastes very much like anything but water and is really crunchy and has a really thick midrib. But I think it does have a bit of a taste. It's kind of got a little bit bitter taste with a little bit of crunchiness and adds a lot of texture to a lot of different kinds of salads. But besides that, let's go ahead and kind of jump right into it. There's a few facts you need to know about lettuce, in particular romaine lettuce. One of it is it does bring about a certain amount of texture and a little bit of flavor to it, and it's not overpowering per se. The other thing that it originated on this Greek island called Kos, and here is one of the marketplaces, and if you check real carefully, you can see the lettuce that's there. And the other fact that I have for you is it's very nutritional. It has a lot of vitamin A, K, and C, so you get your vitamins for the day. And the other thing about this particular kind of lettuce, it can be eaten cooked or raw, and it's been eaten that way for over 5,000 years. So not all lettuces are created equal. Each one of them has their place in the culinary history books. So what do we have to look for in lettuce? Primarily size, condition, and also quality. Those three things are real key into being able to be successful in this judging event. One of the things is size. I wouldn't necessarily use the term uniform for them when we're describing their size. They're either fairly uniform or irregular. And they have to primarily be about 3 stalks per group. The color we're looking for is near the top. It's a nice colored green, where near the heel or the butt end, those should be kind of light green. If they're too green or too white, that's really not a very good quality that we're looking for. They have to be trimmed close. They shouldn't exceed, as I said before, 3 wrapper leaves per bunch. They should be fairly well trimmed, or you can consider them poorly trimmed. If it's just enough to kind of keep them together, that would be fairly well trimmed. If you cut them in a spot where the wrapper leaves can hold together, that would be poorly trimmed. So those are just some of the things you're looking for in addition to the solidarity of it. It should be firm. It should be hard, fairly firm, and also there's also a thing called soft. Soft isn't really what you want because it's being flaccid or dehydrated. That's not something that we want to have. Now, some of the quality defects we're looking for is any kind of insect damage. Also, any broken ribs or burst ribs. Sometimes mechanical damage will do it. You'll see some cuts on some leaves, and that allows entry to a variety of different rots and diseases. So, how do we do this? How do we go about judging it? Well, the first thing is, like for instance, this is one sample, and if you take a look at it, it looks pretty good. You can see that the condition is clean. You can see that it's properly trimmed. Everything down on the butt end there seems to come together and hold the wrapper leaves. But one of the problems is that it's not very crisp. It's not very fresh. You can see the leaves are a little bit wilted. So that tells me that it doesn't have enough water in it. So it's not very crisp. It's going to be kind of limp and what I call flaccid. So this does confirm to the size in terms of the market demand. So you can say it's clean. You can say it's fairly uniform, but it's mostly wilted, mostly flaccid. It isn't the fresh, crisp thing that we want to see in the market. Now here's sample 2. Sample 2, if you take a look at the leaves, they are well hydrated. They tend to be kind of stiff. The actual head of it has definitely 3 to maybe 2 or 3 different wrapper leaves on it. It looks very erect. Has a thick midrib. It's going to probably be very crunchy. It's going to be fresh. And so you can say it's definitely clean. It's fairly well trimmed. It's crisp. It's fresh. Now, when we get to sample number 3, this is a little bit different guy. If you look at one of them, you say, wow, that's pretty good. But it's poorly trimmed, as you can see at the bottom of the one on the right-hand side. And also has some red coloring. That is a particular condition that they get, and it's called russet spotting. And eventually, from white to yellow to more brown, this is becoming more brown. You have a burst midrib on it, and really, if you take a really close look at it, it's really not in very good condition. So you have a rib discoloration from the russet spot. We have one that's poorly trimmed, and they seem to be bruised, and obviously they're broken. So, and the last one, if we looked at it, these are kind of poorly trimmed. I think it barely passes that, primarily because the wrapper leaves are still holding on. And this particular one, and you probably can't see it very well from where you see, but you see little white dots on it if you look very carefully on it, and that's downy mold. So you're having a bit of a problem in that. So we can say, again, it's clean, it's relatively fresh, it's well trimmed. I'm not sure that I would 100% call the one on the left fairly well trimmed, but we'll go with that. And it's a little bit dehydrated on the upper part of the leaves. So it's your turn to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this play and let you kind of go through it at your pace. So here we go. Oh, how do you think you did? Well, let's go ahead and do the critique. The way I scored it is the order of 2, 1, 4, and 3. And of course, the cuts are 4, 2, and 7. I felt the difference between 2 and 1 was great enough to award it a 4. Whereas when I look at 4 and 1 in particular, I see them kind of close together. But I think there's an obvious bottom pair with number 3 with the big gashes and the bursts in the midrib. I think that was kind of the deciding factor there. That should have been a fairly easy part to judge. So let me go ahead and give you the critique the way I see it anyway. And I hope that you and your teammates as well as your coach will kind of go over this as well. In first place today, I put plate number 2. Plate number 2, in my mind, was a very good retail class today. We saw that it is very, very erect and very uniform. It's fairly uniform. I also like the fact that it's crisp and it's also very, very fresh. The mid-rib is clean and upright, so that's why I put it in first place today. In second place, I put plate number 1. Plate number 1 was also, I think, in a very good condition, but I pretty much put it second primarily because it was a little more flaccid, a little soft. It was definitely clean, and we had the right color in terms of it being dark green at the top and a nice light green at the bottom. This is also well trimmed, but I couldn't put it up any higher because I think number 2 was much more hydrated and much more ready for the retail market. In place number 3, I put plate 4. Plate 4 had, I think, some condition issues and health issues. If you notice some of the spots that were kind of rust colored, that's downy mold kind of going in its latter stages. Also, we have some starting up of downy mold also on this one, as you can see just in the middle of this picture. This one too was not as hydrated as I like to see it. It's a little bit flaccid and also poorly trimmed. And in our 4th place today, I think there's a really obvious bottom in plate number 3. Plate number 3 had burst and broken midribs with a lot of discoloration. That being, of course, a rusted spot. It has a bit of a kind of a rust appearance to it. You can also see on the bottom where it's very, very well. It's cut up basically, so it's also poorly trimmed. For these reasons, I place this class of romaine lettuce in the order of 2, 1, 4, and 3. So that's how I judged it. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any other concerns that you'd like to see in the veg crop contest as far as what kind of things you'd like to get some training on. Just kind of mention it there in the bottom and underneath the description. So hope to see you soon, and we'll see you at the next contest. Bye.